the feces brigade, as I'll call them both, because they've fucking no right to be on this earth any more than a tropical disease. They're trying to get a psychologist on, aren't we? We can have a good half hour with me sitting on a sofa, just venting.
If you shut yourself off from your partner, your loved one, during times of stress at work, you're not doing anyone any favours. I'll tell you that for a fact. My time as MD, as much as I enjoyed it, Stuart, actually was probably the worst time for me from a parent point of view. It was a real dichotomy because on one hand, an extremely successful business. On the other hand, I felt like I was part of a very dysfunctional family where I was the dysfunctional bit.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Parenting Business, the podcast designed for you if you're a parent that is also a business owner, business manager, where we talk about all of the trials and tribulations and all those happenings and going-ons of being a parent and a business owner and all that stuff that nobody else ever seems to understand. So we'll get on with the show. Hello, Ben. How are you?
Let's crack on. Good evening. I'm very well on the whole.
Yeah, how's your week been?
Well, it's the first day of the week, isn't it? It's only the first day back, but I've had a good day back with sold well today. That was a surprise. We took a lot of orders today. Wasn't expecting to take any all week, really, but so that was nice. Today's just kind of flowed quite well. First day back's been kind. Not that I'm expecting it to last, but we'll take that one. I do have to start, and if you're not a regular to this podcast, to paint the narrative, I get to a certain point when I go off on a rant. I have a bit of a rant and a rave, and I potentially need anger management at some point. Think Rod Gilbert, Victor Meldrew style rant. And Stuart's quite good at prodding and poking and finding the little thing that I'm going to go off on one about. And somewhere 3/4 of the way through, I tend to have a little mini meltdown. I'm going to start both feet first with a little mini meltdown over Tesco supermarket. And no, that's not quite true. That's not quite fair. In Tesco's defence, they provide 10, 12 baby and toddler parking spaces. There's quite a few, but they're always bloody fighting with somebody for over it. So we're on his way out. We went bowling, actually. But on the way to bowling, we called him. We need a couple of things. We always run out milk in our house and a few little bits and bobs. So we called in to the Tesco Extra, the massive hangar-sized supermarket. And we're trawling round, and we see there's one child-toddler space over there. So like, winner chicken dinner gets to going round.
The elusive child toddler space.
You got it. And we're going round behind this clapped out tranny van that's barely held together with its own rust. And lo and behold, in they pulls to the last fucking child and toddler space. So I sort of hovered, thinking, well, they've made a mistake here, chaps. You'll figure it out. Let me in. Cheers. And he just sort of looked out his window, laughing at me, grinning like a bastard. So I get quite wound up and irate by this. I will consider anger management next week. But I get quite irate and wound up. And, of course, Laura, wife's there. It just doesn't matter, does it? Just let it pass over you as I'm getting more like pop his tyres type mentality springs to mind. I'm getting raged over something that you shouldn't really enter the psyche. It don't really matter, does it? We've got to park a little bit further away. But the parking spaces now, I was close to road raging. The parking spaces that we have are all made for the small little minis from the 1960s. And of course, we're now all driving Humvees, aren't we, to carry everything round in. Those of us that are rotund like I am can barely get out anyway, let alone 3 kids and a pushchair. So I pulls half into a space with the arse end of the car hanging out, struggles, gets the first kid out, second, stay there, don't move, this is a road. And of course, my kids are quite well behaved, but this time they're like regimented, daddies obviously. Wound up at this one, goes round, gets to go, stand there. All the time, these guys in the transit van are getting out slowly, sniggering. The bastards, who the fucking hell do you think you are? Sorry, excuse for a homo sapien. And I get quite rattled, but I'm keeping a lid on it. Just come on, I get the little man in his pushchair. Blah, blah, blah. I keep looking over. And they just, what are you looking at, mate? You know that orangutan style, one brain cell bouncing off the inside of the skull. What are you looking at, mate? And I says, I'm wondering what you chaps are finding funny about watching someone struggle. And goes, sort of scratching their head while they're trying to decipher basic English. And it's around, what, I can't laugh now, sort of thing. Now, at that point, my inner monologue is umming and ahhing about responding or not, because in this day and age, it doesn't take a lot to get your car keyed or your windows smashed, or people are getting stabbed on the street for very little. And you think, should I carry
With
on?
how
Should
this
I
is
not?
going,
And as I'm umming and ahhing, they turn around, walks off into Tesco, and I'm thinking, well, probably for the best. I can tell you're not going for soap, but apart from that, go about your day and we'll just fucking go about ours. And I'm a little bit like, oh, my next port of call was I'm thinking, takes a little picture of it, it's a fucking little Facebook rant, then I'll get it off my chest that way, because obviously knowing me how she does, Laura's like, well, just do whatever you need to do to get it off your chest, just don't get us in trouble, sort of thing. That's right. And then we toddles around Tesco, and of course we go up to wherever it was we were looking for, and I'm looking around for him, mumbling, do I say some, don't I? It's a best off night, it's only a fucking parking space, Benjamin, calm down, dear, you know. And you know, off they try sort of go out when we were going down the aisle for bread or whatever. But it stuck with me for a good half hour, 3/4. So we're in the car afterwards, we went bowling, quite a nice time. But in the car afterwards, and it's sort of, right, what I'm going to put on this fucking Facebook post, do I, don't I? They've only got to, once they know who I am, they can soon find where I live, and it's probably best you don't. But how do you do that? And I puts the reg of this clapped out rust bucket that the feces brigade, as I'll call them both, because they've fucking no right to be on this earth any more than a tropical disease. And lo and behold, not taxed, not MOT'd. So I'm like, bastards, right, I'll just go straight to the coppers then, you fucker. It's not worth bloody upsetting people, is it? You don't know what they're going to do. Well, then I thought, hang on, that same website, it does say outdated. I tried it on another one, and fucking, I was wrong. It was sort of MOT and whatever. And I'm annoyed at myself because it rattled me for a good half hour. What have I got to be annoyed for half an hour? They're not bigger problems in life. Why am I getting annoyed over that? But anyway, went bowling, which is just basically me loading a bowling ball on the little ramp rack for one of the kids to push off, and and then the next person to go. So about half hour, 3/4 of that. But it was good fun. All 5 of us had a go at bowling for less than a theatre ticket from the other week. Well, it's not something, obviously, slowly I calms down and it's not so bad afterwards, and okay, let's just drop it and everything. But for that, 3/4 of an hour. Me brother's up, I was livid with the little bastards, you know. They won't do that to a disabled person, would they? They won't sit there laughing at a disabled person after taking the last disabled space and find it funny when he's struggling with a wheelchair, would they? Why do it to parent and toddler? But as the day goes on and you wind down a bit and you think, okay, not in the same extent, but I was a bit of a twat in my 20s. I was never inconsiderate like that, but I never knew when a joke had gone too far. I'd overstepped the line. Oh, bloody regular. The amount of people I've upset. I'm disappointed in myself from, I would have been 20 years ago. So I kind of get it. And, you know, in the future, maybe they'll look back and say, yeah, I was a bit of a that day. And that fat, bold bloke had me in a bit of a moan, although we had a little pop back. Bit tight on it. Let's not part there again. But I don't know. I'm not holding hope on that one. But where we should be congratulating ourselves is being insulted isn't necessarily a bad thing when you look at it in the big picture. I think it was Socrates who said the insult starts when the argument is won. So really, I should be happy as Larry. I won the argument fucking straight away because I got. But yeah, at the time I had probably best part of an hour, a good 3/4 of an hour. Anyway.
Sorry.
That's right.
You sound like you've still not got over it. I will say, I'm just been looking at the timer.
Oh, yeah.
I've just been looking at the timer, and you've just done a solid
8 minutes
rant
45
for about six or 7 minutes
over a parking space. But here's the thing: I could theoretically, and I do this not very often anymore, but I do it from time to time. Go full Victor Meldrew rant, meltdown, you prick sort of thing. But when you watch Victor Meldrew have his little rant, it cuts to the next scene when he's got a black eye and a bust nose. Ugh, not really worth it, is it? Not really worth it. Calm down, dear. What week have we got? We're trying to get a psychologist on, aren't we? We can have a good half hour with me sitting on a sofa just venting. Sunday, after all this, my wife actually says these podcasts are quite good for you because it's like therapy. You're getting it all off your chest. And if you want to be a guest and have some therapy and get it all off your chest, then we're all ears, aren't we? Over a fucking parking space, or or whatever, what a debt that's just gone bust on you, or sales figures that are shit, or the budget from the other, whatever it is, come and have a rant, come and have a vent. We'll probably join it, I might, and get it off your chest, because a calm, clear mind will achieve so much more in our day-to-day lives. But when you don't have a calm, clear mind because you're stressing about whatever, come and have a vent. What is it? Sorry, email address, podcast at theparentingbusinesspodcast.com. Come and have a vent. Come on. Anyway, how was your week?
You always make my week with
I'll tell you what I'm very happy about, though.
Rants.
I'll tell you what I'm very happy about. We have a stellar guest tonight on the show tonight. I've been looking forward to this for a good week or two since we booked it. And we've got a few good guests coming in the coming weeks, but tonight's is a real treat. I think we could have fun tonight.
Are you done? Are you done? Are you going to take a breath and take a sip of your tea?
I've already done that. I'll take a breath. Yeah.
With your whole 10 minutes odd of ranting.
Yes.
That I think we've now got to.
Is there any time for that?
There was points in that where I thought, well, I'm not sure. We'll have to see what time we're going to have left for them.
He's not waiting in the green room
I
yet,
actually thought. I thought at one point it was going to be you pulling out the knife and stabbing them. I thought at one point you were going to be putting their tyres in or giving them the black eye.
Until I found it's going to cost me £7, I could get their names and address of the owner, and I don't know what I'd do. I've never been violent. I've never hit anybody in my life. I'd never be violent, but I could enter a place of work and be a little knobhead somewhere, pretend to place a 20 grand order, and then go, "Oh no, I remember you. Bye." Well, I don't know. I think of something better than that. That's a bit lame, isn't it? But yeah, and then you think, well, is it actually worth it? Every action has a reaction. Don't matter if you're right or wrong. You may have the moral high ground, but if you're not dealing with a rational, moral person, what's the reaction going to be? Not worth it, is it?
That's quite true. That is quite true.
Get some therapy instead.
What I'm going to do is actually, if you're listening and you enjoy Ben's rants, do get in touch. Do tell us how much more you want to hear about Ben's absolute rants. We could even start a spin-off podcast. But if you are enjoying them, don't forget to follow us on Spotify or wherever you listen. Do also feel free to get in touch with your stories, your top tips of how you balance your parenting business, or just your rants and just
have
be
a rant.
Ben. You can either leave us a comment or drop us an email at podcast@parentingbusiness.com. Also, if you like what you hear, please make sure you share the podcast with other parents and business owners. And don't forget to leave us a 5-star review just to help spread the support. And I'm sure people will listen just for your rants, Ben.
But you wouldn't, though, would you? You wouldn't. You'd be very disappointed, and you'd lose your rag yourself at being laughed at, struggling with 2 toddlers and a baby, wouldn't you? You don't laugh at people struggling when you've just took the last space.
I must admit, a pet
What's
peeve
the
of
human
mine,
race coming to? I mean, fucking hell.
I must admit, a pet peeve of mine is people using parent and child bays when they shouldn't.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I went into our local Sainsbury's actually, and I spoke to the security guard in there, and I said, "Look, come on, if these were disabled parking bays,
they've got
you'd have
authority
more
for
to
it.
say."
Yeah.
But with them being parent and child bays, what he actually said was, "No, we don't own our car park. We can't do anything about it.
We can't do it." Yeah.
The car parks in supermarkets are usually managed by private firms, not the supermarket themselves.
Yeah, and they clock you on the camera coming in, and if you've been there more than 2 hours in the cafe, you have to pay a fine.
Yeah, but they don't care. They don't seem to care about the parent and child base.
I had a meeting with people. We used to have meetings in the cafe, still do from time to time, and I was in there a while, to be fair, and I did a bit of shopping after. 2 hours, 10 minutes it was. I got fucking fine through the post, bastards. Now I go and talk to the manager. He got it rescinded, but wherever it was on the desk. But yeah. Anyway, with no further ado, we have a guest.
And I will say,
well,
yes, they are just waiting in the green room to come in. But I will say, in response to your question earlier, now I can get a word in edgeways. I'll say, yes, I've had a start to the week, actually, myself as well. I've not had the rants that you've had, but orders have gone surprisingly well.
If I don't get it off your chest. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
What also has helped
I
is you probably have all this the same as me. When people shut down for Christmas, they stop paying their bloody bills. So
Yes.
what is quite nice coming back in January is suddenly you chase a load of people and they go, oh, yeah, we
Yeah.
should have paid that over Christmas. Let's pay you some money.
Yeah. But it still takes a week of feet dragging, doesn't it? But
yeah,
there we are, as long as
drag
it adds
their
up in the end. Yeah. But no, if
absolutely.
if I don't get it off my chest, I risk a psychotic, homicidal rage. So you've got to get things off your chest. Clear your mind.
I know.
Clean the soul.
And speaking about getting stuff off your chest,
Yes.
I think it's time for us to welcome on our first guest.
I think it might be. We'll read him the riot act, all the do's and don'ts, and make a start, shall we? Because I think it's going to be good.
And
Bring him in.
I'll leave the introduction up to you.
So our guest tonight, absolutely thrilled to have this man on. I've known you a couple of years now, I think, and an absolute honour and a pleasure of mine to welcome Mr. Mark Goldby. Good evening.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you, Stuart. I think it's been a bit longer than 2 years, by the way. Yeah.
I do suspect I've known you for 30 plus.
But that
was in another life.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right on that as well. No, I think we've been crossing paths regularly for at least 6 years. So yeah, no, it's great. And
what I want to know, Mark, is when you say crossing paths, have you been trying to avoid those paths at times as well?
Yeah, I mean, walking
more recently, yeah.
No, we've done some work together through one of the peer networks that I chair, manufacturing network, which is great actually for business owners. Kind of come and share their problems together with each other. And Ben came along to one of those meetings, and actually we became friends quite quickly afterwards. So it's quite an easy friendship actually, I felt. And then we turned out that there were other connections through interests like ice hockey and things like that.
There are.
And I noticed you've got a Panthers jersey hanging up behind you there.
Especially for you. I don't normally do that.
It's very kind of you. Very kind of you. So.
I was just about to say myself, Mark, he's done that for you. He's absolutely done. We've never had a Panthers jersey.
Now if it was my original shirt, I would be very honoured, but I don't think it is.
This is a little more recent.
Yeah.
This is from the late 90s as opposed to the early.
I think that was Super League era, I think. I'd almost pretty much hung my skates up by then, I feel.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Good fond memories. All fond memories of misspent youth.
Misspent youth, renegades and rascals. So, you born and bred locally, schooled locally in a former coal mining town there and then, and you started a glittering.
How did
you get to that?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because it's kind of an oddity, really. So, I think the first, I think it's important to kind of understand where I grew up and how I grew up. And I grew up on a farm. So my dad was a farmer, or rather, it was his granddad's farm, or my granddad's farm, his father's farm. And actually, what it turned out to be that my dad didn't like farming. But as I got older, and I'm talking about 8, 9, 10 years of age now, you had jobs to do. There's always jobs to be done on a farm. You know, you always have to help out. So I think from a very early age, I was instilled the work ethic of getting up during a day's work, getting it done. Well, whatever day that is, whether it's a Monday, a Sunday, or whatever. So I didn't really have time for sports. So, a lot of my contemporaries were, playing cricket or playing rugby. And I went to secondary school, and I wasn't particularly any good at any of them because I hadn't spent much time doing them. And then I stumbled across, or rather, went down the ice stadium one evening with a few friends, and I just got hooked on ice skating. And then before I knew it, I was going twice a week in a school evening with some friends, and then at the weekend. And then it turned out that certainly in the early 80s that the Nottingham Panthers had reformed after a hiatus of about 3 decades, and they were looking to start a junior section. So they were looking to recruit kind of decent skaters. They'll work on the ice hockey bit later, but if you could skate, you get a tryout. I got a tryout, so I was delighted with that. And that's when I was 14. And then when I was 16, I made my first senior appearance for the Panthers. So one of 2 locally trained, in the modern era, trained players to make their debut for the Panthers. I went on to play for Great Britain under 21s, and I suppose if I was to, you said glittering, I'm not quite sure I would use that phrase, but what I would say is that I think I went and took my career as far as I could possibly take it. That meant for me having to move around a bit and play for different teams, and the reason for that was quite simply the game was getting faster, the players were getting bigger. As you know, I'm not a particularly big, tall guy, but I was certainly very stocky. So I could kind of handle myself from that point of view. So, our coach tend to favour the taller lads than the smaller lads with the skill. So I kind of moved around a bit and played professionally for a few years before a kind of true job, or as my nan used to say, when are you going to get yourself a proper job? So before that kind of started to come up and my playing career started to fade down. So
I would call it glittering. I'm full of admiration for yourself and others, but you blazed the trail. You played at the top echelon of a UK sport. You won trophies, 86, 89 and 92. I believe you won trophies with the Nottingham Panthers.
And the 80s ones. Yeah, I wasn't around 92. Yeah.
Oh, were you in Telford by 92?
I was.
Okay. But for me, for a young boy, because I went through the junior ranks in Nottingham from the age of about 5, be mascots, 5, 6-year-old fuzzy-haired kids who were all cute and falling over in the corners sort of thing. I still fall over in the corners, but I can't claim the other two anymore. But we'd join you for the warm-ups, and we'd be in the dressing room, learn how to swear and things from your idol. You were one. And they say, this is the other thing I'm very happy with you about. They say you should never meet your...
Right.
And on that front, as a young lad, 5, 6, 7, 8, I'm thrilled to bits that you will never introduce me to Paul Aby, who for me, God on skates growing up. He was the upper echelons of everything I wanted to be in the 5, 6, 7, 8 sort of age bracket. So
I've got some great
full
stories.
Of admiration.
Got some great stories.
I've heard a couple.
Yeah, I won't be sharing them tonight, though.
Well, no, my mother shared a couple of stories about Paul also. And,
but they were great times. They were great times. There's no question about it. And in many ways, not what
Ben,
put across, but...
Shall I just go and leave you to bromance?
For now, yeah. I'll wake you up in a minute. We will move on, obviously, shortly. But for me, that's quite a big thing. I'm a touch envious, but full of admiration there. The thing I'd like to end with is the teamwork, the team spirit, the ethics, the whole thing there. How did that transfer after being the glittering crew Siemens in 19...
Okay, well, that's a big jump. But I think I'm kind of getting what you're trying to say there. Being a Nottingham hometown lad, disappointingly, the only team I wasn't the captain on was Nottingham.
Yes.
So it was a real disappointment. But I think what that kind of illustrated, I think, wasn't necessarily my skill, because you don't have to be the most skilled player to be the captain. You just need to be a leader. And I think it comes back to that kind of growing up on a farm, work ethic, demonstrating, proving by example, and more often than not, I'd also be fairly vocal in the changing room, which meant, getting people up for the game, getting them kind of revved up, and getting them ready in the right sort of zone. So now that changing room dynamic is a little bit more abrasive and a little bit more raw than you need to be in business. But what it did teach you about is how to treat people differently depending on who you're with. What I tended to do, instead of kind of, I don't know, I'm not trying to compare myself at all to Alex Ferguson. Where Alex Ferguson will do a hairdryer moment. Well, I used to kind of go around the individual team members as the captain and just have a little quiet word with them in the way I knew would work for them. Because not everyone reacted well to shouting and bawling. So I'd go around and say, "Come on then, John. You're the best skater on the team. I want to see you fly tonight. I want to get you, up and down. And have a little kind of pep talk with them all. Come on. And that was my style. So it's kind of recognizing people's strengths, and just kind of giving them a good, pat on the back for it, really. So with that in mind, I didn't know it at the time, by the way, but that in mind, that was my management style. I'd already started to form, even though I never thought it was as a management style. So kind of winding forward a lot, because I did take heed of my nana, and I did get a proper job eventually. But sadly, I had to start at the bottom. I had to recognise I had to start at the bottom, and there was an overlap. So at least I was being paid to play hockey. So I wasn't really kind of destitute from that point of view. But but I started to work my way up the employment ladder. I worked for Derek Pavis. He was chairman of Notts County for many years, and he owned a very successful plumbing merchants in Nottingham. I worked for him for a bit before I moved to GPT, which is Plessy over at the Beeston Industrial Park. And I started there in 1989, right at the bottom. And I mean, literally at the bottom. I think I was in the accounts department as a clerk and, making cups of tea and everything. And I just found my feet. And because I had time and commitment to do it, I was tailing off my hockey career. And I must have had some. I mean, I was fairly well educated, by the way. I got also A levels and business study degree. Sorry, diploma. So I wasn't stupid. So I just wanted an opportunity in business, and then that kind of started to happen. Every 18 months, I was kind of moving up and around and changing roles, trying something different. And I was always very lucky to work for nice managers who kind of saw more in me than I saw in myself, to be fair. Always giving me an opportunity. But the biggest opportunity came when Siemens took over the business. It didn't seem like it at the time because within a few months there was large scale redundancies, restructuring, and I thought, oh dear, what have I got myself into here? But actually, what I didn't realise is I was, unbeknown to me, part of their future plan. Not exclusively just me. There were many people working there that were earmarked for. These are really important people to this company. Let's protect them, give them an opportunity to develop and show their potential. So things really took off for me after that. I got promoted. I had to move away from Nottingham for a while because that was the opportunity that presented itself, and I worked in Manchester for a few years. But then I came back, and this is the kind of the dynamic of what had happened. Now, I was at Plessy for about 3 years and worked my way up a few little steps of the ladder, very minimal. I wasn't even in management. I left in '94 to Manchester, Siemens. I came back and I was running the place. So things had happened quite quickly. I want to say running the place, I was running the manufacturing and engineering areas. So what had happened in those 3 years away in Manchester was I really got my head down. I was married, we were singles. Sorry, we weren't parents, I should say. And lots of time to invest. And I kind of really etched out a key part of my career. I was the youngest executive at 30 in Siemens in the UK. So things were going really well. But that was only just the start of a management career. So, but all those things kind of started to form and shape my style, my way in business. And I've always been very much a solutions type of person. And I don't mean that from a technical point of view. I mean, literally, I like to find the right solution for everyone. It's not my way or the highway approach. And in some cases, you have to do it that way. That's not my adopted style. My adopted style is to bring the best out of everyone to make sure everyone's happy.
And that's testament to you, that rise in a few short years is the ethic that comes from your grandfather's farm and your feet on the ground, humility, may I say, at times, and just get your head down, knuckle down, do your best, and be positive. There's a lot to be said for positive mental attitude.
Well, I do feel I do possess it, and even still now to this day, and we'll talk about it, I'm sure, in a few minutes. But I do lots of things at the moment to challenge myself, but also you've got to be very positive about the direction you're taking, and you've got to build resilience into your character and into your lifestyle. And I do it in a particular way, but I do it in a particular way. But I think it's really important because there are so many things out there at the moment that want to knock your block off. There are so many people out there that aren't going to be particularly kind. There are situations that will challenge you. And if you haven't got that resilience in you, or at least be prepared for those sort of things, it can really sideswipe you and can knock you back.
Which we know a bit about, and we started this podcast for exactly that, having been sideswiped and not prepared, albeit we've had that grit, determination and resilience to pick yourself up off the floor. Is it Muhammad Ali who says you're not a loser if you get knocked down, you're a loser if you don't get back up again? So that's kind of the reason we're doing this. So it's great to hear you talk a little bit about that. You then, 2002, make a big risky leap, perhaps. They turned out to potentially, and I'm guessing here, I don't know, be the second best decision you've probably ever made.
Well, first best decision being coming on this show.
Oh no, I was going to say marrying your good lady wife, but maybe we'll knock everything down a peg if.
Well, this was a really interesting time. 97, when I came back to Nottingham to run the manufacturing engineering department. In 2002, when I bought the business from Siemens, a lot was happening, and I have to say it was more of a difficult time than an easy time. Although it would seem, oh, well, amazing, you bought this business out, that's brilliant. There was so many moving parts to this. The first thing was, I was brought in to run the facilities in Beeston, as I thought was a progression to my career. I was now a senior manager. I had a large team of people. I had managers working for me, so I was managing managers, a large team of people. Manufacturing had about 180 staff, and engineering had about 300. So these are large-scale operations, and I thought that for me was a really big positive step for my career. Totally committed into it. The problem was they had other plans, and they never told me. When I say they, the senior managers there had plans just after the year 2000, so the Millennium Bug issue that was a kind of a non-entity, a non-starter. But actually what it did, it made Siemens realise they'd got more or too much capacity in their factories across the entire world. And in our division, which is telecoms, they had far too many. So they wanted to go on a rationalisation programme and reduce the number of factories from 20 worldwide to 3. And they spent a lot of money with McKinsey's to tell them what we could have told them for free, which is you want one in Germany because the labour laws are so tough out there. You're better off keeping people hired than try and get rid of them. You want one in the Americas because they were just about to list on the New York Stock Exchange, and you want one in the Far East because everyone's making stuff in the Far East at the moment. So it made sense to me. Which meant, of course, we were neither of those, right? So we were going to go. So I was told to sell it or close it. Great. So I've just got a dream job. I'm back in Nottingham. Oh, my wife's pregnant. Oh my God, everything is looking rosy. And then all of a sudden, oh my God, I was the FD, commercial manager at the time, which handled all of the finances as well. The problem with that is when you start looking at selling a business or indeed trying to close it, you have to have good financials around you. You've got to understand everything, what drives the costs, what your cost base is, what the cost of closure is. So it was an extremely stressful time. Now, because of the sensitivity and confidentiality of those two things, I had to do it exclusively on my own. I couldn't even give it to my team. So I was working late nights. I was having to do stuff on my desk over here. People would come in and I'd put something on top of it so they couldn't see it, and it was just really stressful. And I was right when I was saying my wife was pregnant as well. So our first child was being accepted, she was pregnant, and first child being expected, and Ben was born just before the millennium. So I'm now, a dad, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is a really difficult time.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah.
What am I going to do?
Yeah, exactly. So what happened then, which is, I went with it. I went with it because my boss at the time was the FD of Siemens UK. It was a German guy. He always had my back, and he kind of said to me, "Don't worry about this, Mark. If it, we'll sort you out." So because basically, if I sold the factory, I was either selling myself out, or if I closed it, I was doing myself out of a job. But he said, "Don't panic," which is fair enough. And I thought, I always remember those words. But increasingly, we tried to bundle the package of factories together with some other Siemens factories. But then 9/11 came along, and then all of a sudden, Siemens didn't want to be, or rather, American trade buyers didn't want to be buying factories outside of the US. And one of them in the package of our 3-4 factory package was one in Egypt, and they wanted a factory in the Middle East. Like, no, not after what had happened in down on Manhattan Island on 9/11. So that fell apart. But the problem was it only accelerated Siemens' determination to get them sold. And I was spending more and more time actually in Munich at headquarters. And I had and it wasn't going anywhere quick because the Y2K had fizzled. The economy just after the 2000s started to falter a bit. Gulf War hadn't happened, but there was a lot of uncertainty around at the time. So anyway, it kind of ambled along for a bit. But the key moment was in 2002, just before the Easter break. I can't remember when Easter was that year, but anyway, I was in Munich for a big meeting. All of the senior managers from all over the world were there, all about trying to get these factories closed or sold. So I was there representing the UK. When I got home after these 10-hour days, I was having to dial in back to the UK to my FD to tell him, I'd give him an update on how things were going. Yeah, it was extremely pressurized. And I had a slot at the end of, I think it was a Thursday afternoon, I had a slot to present on specifically our plan for closure, which I wasn't happy with, but I was asked to provide a plan, so that's what I did. And I waited outside the boardroom because some of the directors from all the different divisions were having a meeting. And I sat there, and I sat there, and I sat there. And I kept talking to the PA for the chief executive, saying, I need to be going to the airport in no more than an hour from now. Otherwise, I'm going to miss my flight out of Munich. And if I don't get the flight tonight, there are no flights tomorrow on Good Friday. And I will miss Easter. The first Easter with my child. Ben was like 4 months old. So sat there, and I kept looking at her, and she kept ringing through. And she said, fine, keep waiting. Anyway, they made me sit there. And I didn't go. Wow. And I missed my flight. And I didn't get home, and I missed the first Easter with my child and with our child. And on the way home to the hotel that night, I decided that I was going to take a different course in my entire life, and that course was I was no longer going to work for anyone that told me what to do, when to do it, and for whatever reason, and ever good they tell you, do it. I decided that I was never going to work for a large company again because they didn't treat me as a human being. I sat out there. They didn't understand the compassion of the fact that I was a new parent. So I decided when I got back that I was going to buy the business off him. And I won't tell you the commercial details, but suffice to say, I got a bloody good deal because I was that determined that it needed to be. So there's a little bit of satisfaction in that when I bought it off them. But at the same time, it also meant I took control. I took my job control back. It was an exciting but also very scary time, and we eventually got the deal done on the 11th of November 2002, so that's Remembrance Day. We used the KPMG as our corporate advisors. There's a whole cast of thousands doing all the commercial due diligence, insurance due diligence, the banking. Oh, God, it was cost us a bloody fortune. I bet. But I always remember the guy from KPMG. He said two things that I'll always never forget. One good and one not so good. And the first one was the good one. He said, the real value with an MBO, because it was an MBO structure, management buyout structure, the real value is ownership. You will make your money through ownership. And I thought, well, I like the sound of that, and that's good, and I've remembered that forever. And the thing that I also remember, it's not so good, he said, when we signed the deal, we literally signed the deal, and I did a bit of a fist pump, going back to the ice hockey days there, Ben. I was like, yeah, fist pump. And then he turned around and said, I thought I'd also tell you as well, well done, guys, but 50% of management buyouts fail in the first 6 months. Yeah. God. Wow. Took about taking the wind out of your sails, but we didn't fail in the first 6 months because the deal was strong enough to enable us to get off to a good start. So, yeah.
After hearing that, the amount that failed in 6 months, how many staff were you responsible for when the ink was dry on that contract? So you went from being employed to responsible for how many hundred?
Yeah. Well, no, we were relatively small. We took over. Okay. Well, no, I say small. I'll tell you why. Because there've been some changes, and the bits we didn't want and bits we wanted. Right. About 170, 185 staff. 185 staff.
How did you sleep?
Fairly well. From a point of view, I was just absolutely shattered. And they call that deal fatigue, by the way. It's a real thing. It's a real thing. Yeah. Deal fatigue. Yeah. And I felt that, but it just felt right. I have to say, at the end of the day, the deal was the deal. They were happy to accept it. I was happy to accept it. So that's fine.
And Mark, sorry.
Yeah, sure.
You talk about, you've gone through this deal. You've just had a baby. You're suddenly going from effectively a payroll employee to this is now down to me.
Yeah.
Did that go through your mind in terms of the family and actually providing wasn't down to Siemens, wasn't down to somebody else employing you, it was down to you yourself, and how did that kind of affect you in terms of that changing from being an employee to the buck stops with you in relation to the family?
Yeah, okay. Now there's a couple of bits to this that's really important to understand. Talk about kind of not eggs in one basket, but talk about all the kind of divergence of issues and things. So Ben was like a couple of years old. He was 3 actually. It was 3 time we did the deal. But my wife had been working for many years as cabin crew on the airlines, and she was coming to the end of a fixed term contract. So she finished work. She decided to take a payoff, which is the thing when you have a fixed term contract, you can take a payoff for retraining into whatever you want to retrain into.
Yeah.
And it was always our plan that she'd become a stay-at-home mum. So there's a double impact at home because we had previously, we had an income from that. She had an income from that, and I had my income. And the other thing is, when you do a management buyout, you always have to put what they call skin in the game. You always have to put some money, your own money in. Well, we had to, because we were a young family, we were working hard. We'd moved into a bigger house a couple of years before. Our mortgage was okay, but large. We ended up having to raise money through the mortgage, and we were 100% maxed out. So not only had I gone from a nice, and when I say a nice paid job, I was on about, so this is in the early noughties, I was on sort of 60,000 plus £1,000 bonus. That was my income, and I could
And
always
this
rely
is
on that
back in the
bonus.
90s.
Yeah. So it was decent, wasn't it? And which was some of the thinking
Yeah.
behind Lisa giving up her work. So the stability of that salary had gone. My wife's not working. Got a massive mortgage because I'm mortgaged up to the hilt because I've had to buy into this business. So yeah, there was a bit of pressure, and to make matters worse, I suppose. Well, no, actually, it didn't make it worse. It made it better. It probably helped me with my therapy on it because I became the FD for the company. So I had to get to grips with it because prior to that, Siemens controlled their treasury operations from a centralized office in Milton Keynes, not in our factory.
Right.
So I had to create my own treasury function, which means also creating all the payroll and the pensions, and we created our own pension. So I was stuck right in the depth of getting all that set up, and I think that probably helped me through it because I started to think there's 185 people that rely on me. There's 185 families that are relying on me to get this right. There's a few of those
Yeah.
185 are probably really pissed off because they wanted to see the rest of their 5 or 6 years out as a Siemens employee, have a super gilt-edged pension, sail off into the sunset. And Mark Goldby's gone and bloody ruined it for them. Yeah. So there was a bit of, so I suppose going back to the farm mentality, a job had to be done. I had to get it done. So and it kind of came out the other side. Now don't think, by the way, we were silly enough not to pay ourselves the similar sort of salary in the company as I was getting in Siemens. And what we kind of said to ourselves is, let's do that as a minimum, and we'll see where we are in a year. If we feel we need to benchmark our directors' salaries against other similar sized businesses, we'll do that, and we might need to do something about it. But let's not rock the boat in the first year. Let's get through it. Let's hopefully make some profit and build the reserves, pay some of the debt down. So
You must have, or had at that point at least, bollocks like beach balls, because to go from a high-paid job, your wife's leaving her job to be a stay-at-home mum.
Yeah.
You've just took on, you are responsible, and as you've just said, for 185 people's wages and your own. And as I found out a couple of years ago, when you sign on the line that says your house may be repossessed if you don't keep up repayments, they bloody mean every word of that. I found that out, as you know, 18 months, 2 years, whatever it was. And just to go from that relative that, not predicament, because it's one hell of an opportunity. So my question, which I'm leading to, is your product range. If Siemens are pulling out and moving production, what were you selling?
Yeah, good question.
Because it was no longer a Siemens product, presumably.
Yeah. Well, I told you.
Bollocks like beach balls. Really, really must do.
Well, when I joined the factory in '97, one of the reasons. So this is 5 years previous to. There's a reason they wanted me down there. I'd made a name for myself in Manchester, supporting the sales teams in the north of England. But of course, what they really wanted, my negotiating skills, because they want me to close it or sell it. But anyway, I didn't know that at the time. So we had started offering spare capacity. And so when we bought the business in 2002, we had some other customers other than Siemens already. And the future was based on their work increasing. But the real icing on the cake is that I negotiated with Siemens a guaranteed amount of product volume for the first 3 years. They would pay us for the volume of products in the agreement. Whether they took it or not, they would be paying us. They took it. So there was a kind of a period of a comfort as we built the other thing up, and that's the only way it worked. And no one in Siemens at the time, because Siemens have never done a management buyout before in their life, they normally sell to a big, strong, well-known trade player. They said we don't agree to it, and so it's not going to work then, guys. The trade don't want you, we want you, but this is how it's going to have to be. So they eventually kind of got, okay, well, what we got to lose? So we eventually got a few people sacked, actually, moved out of the way. But we got to the end because the deal wasn't going to get done with that. So we were happy that we were going to continue developing our third-party activity, and Siemens eventually would slow their volumes down and taper off.
Which brings its own pressure, but
yeah.
And Mark, how much did you tell your wife at the point that you took that decision? And kind of how much was your wife involved in that decision, and what was her reaction?
Now, right, this is a really tricky one. Let me just put into context the reaction you might expect from her, based on when I got a promotion in 1994, and they said, Mark, we're going to make you the youngest executive at Siemens. You need to move house to either London or Manchester. What's it going to be? I took that dilemma because it was an opportunity for me, but it's a dilemma because we'd been married 6 months. Got married we've been married 9 months actually. Got married in June '93. So my wife Lisa is a local girl, home bird from Gedlin, near where I grew up, from Sat and the other. And so I went back with a message. We're off to London or Manchester. What do you reckon? Yeah, it didn't go down well. Thankfully, her mum and dad were wonderful with it and said they could see what the opportunity was. So I made a promise. I did make a promise to my wife. This contextual background is important. Okay.
Yeah.
I made a promise to my wife that we'd move to Manchester. Well, we actually moved to Stone halfway so she could continue to work in as an air stewardess and I'd travel up the M6. I said we'd move because the company was paying for us for a relocation package. I said we will be back in Nottingham in no more than 3 years. And we moved back to Nottingham in 2 years, 363 days. I brought it back early. We moved back. So there was, and in that time, a lot of great things had happened, and I'd coming back and I'd been promoted again and things like that. So there's a bit of trust there. Lisa remembers the fact that I missed that first Easter break with Ben. I was stuck in this is before video phones and things. I was stuck talking to her on a mobile phone in Munich over Easter weekend. It's awful. She remembers that. She knew what was driving me to buy the business. That proceeded, that followed all through the months of negotiation. She knew she could trust me. This was going to work. So there wasn't that much of a problem. She knew it was risky, but she said, if everyone's going to do it, you're going to do it. So that's how it kind of came out.
I suppose that's really good. You knew you'd got such a strong relationship with your wife and the trust was there. And I'm assuming that the trust that she had for you gave you more confidence as well.
Yeah. But it wasn't always going to be like that. By the way, we haven't even got into the meaty bit yet. But I have to say, anyone who ignores the knowledge and experience and reflection that a partner can provide for someone who works, is missing a whole world of opportunity. If you shut yourself off from your partner, your loved one, during times of stress at work, you're not doing anyone any favors. I'll tell you that for a fact. But we'll get on to that, I'm sure. So yeah.
Oh, I'll echo that. I didn't have secrets from my wife. She knew how it was during the times of trouble, and when it all went tits up, sort of thing. There's an element, and this is part of the reason we started this. There's an element of there's only so much support somebody who's not been there and done it can give.
Yeah. Yeah, but
see, the best will in the world doesn't really know how to.
No, but I misinterpreted that, and she misinterpreted it. And let me explain. I've always considered myself as the provider.
Yes.
And that's something that's not kind of stamped on my forehead. It's just sort of the way I've been brought up. Farming, hardworking. I provide. It's simple. Now I kind of get on with that, and I don't necessarily talk about it. I get on with it, and if I get a bit stressed, normally I'll go a bit quiet. That's because I don't want to necessarily share some of that burden, some of that worry and stress with your loved one. Now, unfortunately, Lisa misinterpreted that as being, he probably thinks I wouldn't understand, or I don't understand what a business is about. But actually, there's no one better to understand people than my wife, I can assure you. Okay. So there's a bit of a gap in and actually when it came to it, when we started to share, this is a story later on, but when we started to share more about the workings of the business, and she came to work with me for a while, so she understood the business, right? So she came to work for me because I was working so many hours I want to see her, and this is we're going to get into the parenting bit in a bit about this as well. So she understood more about it, and actually she became a really good reflection point for me. She would talk to me about the things that I'd be concerned about, and she could do it in kind of relatively knowledgeable way about the situation, the people involved in it. It became really powerful, actually. So I never felt alone. When I was running the business, because I took over as MD some years later, it took over being a very lonely place. I actually had my wife with me, and I think it made it better for that reason. Not all the time, but she understood enough about the business to care,
Yes.
and enough about it to understand some of the problems that I have to face. So,
It's interesting dynamic.
Yeah. And that is interesting, because a lot of business owners do exactly what you initially thought. They try to shield their partner from the business and from the challenges of the business and keep it all in themselves. You made what I think is quite a bold and brave move to actually bring your partner more into the business so that she could understand you better.
well, there was a kind of there's an odd need in a way. Just before the banking meltdown in sort of 2007, 2008, we were going pretty well. We'd had three or four really good productive years. We'd made quite a bit of profit, which I was really excited about. We paid down our debts, and probably more significantly, all the money we had to put in. I had to remortgage my house. That amount of money, skin in the game, that was placed in the MBO at the beginning. We paid a dividend back out, so the same amount. So we kind of said to ourselves, you know what? If it all went wrong tomorrow, we've had just had 5 years of extra salary. Not kind of worried about it really. So all that kind of happened, and then as it started to bite, order books dried up as they did. You'll remember what it was like. I'm absolutely certain. And we had to reduce to a 4-day week. Things still had to get done. We suspended pension payments. We just cut our cloth according to suit, but we still needed stuff to do. So the wife said, "Well, I'll come in and help. If you want me to help." I don't know what you want me to do, but I'm sure you could teach me something, and I'll help. So she used to come in, and she used to help with in the finance department, and it was a godsend because in the finance department we were managing cash flow daily, which meant stuff that normally would get done didn't get done. So she came in but we always used to have lunch together. So she'd come down and would have an hour in lunch together and talk about stuff, and it became an important part of me managing that period of time. It was extremely stressful because we were losing customers. We weren't losing customers. We just weren't getting the orders because they weren't being placed because they had no orders. So so it was kind of a hard need that she needed to be in there, but actually it worked well at the same time.
And childcare, we've been at school at this point. Maybe
we had this wonderful childminder that worked. Just go down the ice hockey. She wasn't my number one fan, but she was certainly a fan.
We can't all be, can we?
No, that's right. And we've known her years as a personal friend, and she was a full-time nanny, a full-time childminder, so not far away from the factory. So I'd either pick him up or Lisa was. So, but because Lisa worked part-time anyway, even when he started at early school and things, she would come in after she dropped him off at school and pick him up and things. So that kind of worked.
Very good.
So you eventually became MD.
Yeah.
How did that change things for you?
Well, once again, there's a bit of a contextual thing to it. So, which I'm going to have to just go back prior to this. When the banking meltdown actually happened, we had secured a huge order. Our banks were just playing funny buggers with us. We needed more money, working capital, because the potential of this particular contract with a company, I'll remain nameless, but they were the number one provider of video conferencing equipment in the world. And the bank said, because right at the heart of it, the banks were broken. They had no money to lend. They were having to reorganize and restructure, and they weren't doing what they were effectively paid to do, which is to service industry and all that. So they started withdrawing facilities, and then he told us we had to leave. So what? I said, look, we've got a roasting hot order book. I said to them when I saw to the regional director, I used to be on all their corporate videos. Our bank, I'm not going to name the bank. I was their darling. I used to be on their corporate videos. Used to go to private dues. They'd always ring me for a quote to go in. You name it. And when it came to the
Mark, did they love you as much as Ben loves you?
That's quite the echelon.
Yeah, well, put it this way: you've never bought me a 25-year-old Macallan. So, but there's always
I haven't. I've been trying to bitters about all it's been, hasn't it?
So so the problem was then is the banks were told, don't you know the details of it, but the banks were told package up a load of the customers and get rid of them and give them to someone else. And we were in a package. The problem is we'd won this contract. We're going to lose it. We won't be able to fulfill this contract. So literally, we had to refinance the business in the middle of a banking crisis. Would you believe, of all the stuff I've had to deal with, things were just about right.
Yeah.
So when the listing bank wasn't listening and the bank like says yes, said no,
No,
there I was thinking, what the hell? I couldn't go to another high street lender because they're all in the same boat. So I had to go to a specialist finance company and pay extortionate rates
Yeah.
purely to get the working capital facility. The bank, by the way, I physically threw the bank manager out of my office one day because it was awful. They could see the potential of what we had, but they were just refusing to give the money. Anyway, that was a very, very, very stressful time, and I mean
I
very
bet.
stressful. There's a whole host of stories I could tell you on that, which I won't share on this.
No, we've only time. But how old's Ben at this point?
So Ben was 9 years old.
Okay.
So I'm spending increasingly large amounts of time in the business.
Yeah.
I was right. 18 months later, we were the fastest growing company in the UK, privately owned company. We won everything. We won the Financial Times fastest growing company 3 years in a row. We won the Financial Times most profitable company in 2 years in a row, I think it was. We had a tremendous surge, all on the back of this contract. I knew that was going to be successful. The company who financed us were delighted. So we had to renegotiate with them to get the fees down. But the reality is, it was big payday for the directors, big payday for the shareholders, which put a lot of financial security back our way, given the risk. But it changed the dynamic of the shareholders. My fellow shareholders were older than me by a significant margin. And all of a sudden, they had this money land and they went, I'm out, I'm cashing out. So they cashed out from operational duties and I took over as MD. And I missed them. I missed the experience that they all provided me when we were working together as a group. But all of a sudden, it was me on my own. And despite them saying, don't worry, we'll still be here. Yeah. We'll just ring me. We're just around the corner.
Yeah.
It never happened.
Yeah.
It never happened. So all of a sudden, my life, my hours started to increase even more. And I'm talking a 50-hour week would be half week.
Yeah.
No, it was more like 60, 70 hours. The rewards were there. We were spending money as well. We were enjoying nice holidays when we could get them. But what I wasn't realizing was happening to my detriment is that I wasn't seeing our son grow up, going through his early teenage years. All that responsibility was falling on Lisa. Lisa, to a certain degree, shielded me from that because, your dad's, he's busy, he's got an important job type of thing. But the reality is I didn't make time. And that did come home to roost, sadly, at some point during the following years. So my time as MD, as much as I enjoyed it, Stuart, actually was probably the worst time for me from a parent point of view. So there's a bit of a yin and yang with that. But incidentally, all of that is the precursor to what I do now. And so there's a kind of an epiphany moment that happened in 2016 where I decided, Ben had a few issues, by the way. He had some issues at school, a bit of bullying and friendship groups breaking down because he was heading towards GCSEs and things like that. Yeah. I wasn't there for him. And when I was there for him, I wasn't tolerant of him. I wasn't tolerant of his issues. I was just trying to be a bit, probably back to the ice hockey days. Come on, we can do it. Come on.
Yeah.
He needed handling in a very, more sympathetic and more respectful manner.
Or back to your farming days of just get on with the job, boy.
Yeah, mend and make do, crack,
bottle it up and
So it was a tough one, and it wasn't a great period of time. It was a real dichotomy because on one hand, I had an extremely successful business. On the other hand, I felt like I was part of a very dysfunctional family where I was the dysfunctional bit. Yeah.
I think that does affect a lot of business owners because they feel it's not always the pressure of providing. It's that thought of we're doing so well. I'm able to provide a great life for my family because we can do the holidays. We can have all these amazing things. But sometimes I don't think you're any different to a lot of business owners when businesses, particularly when business is going well, and it seems really strange. Lots of people think, oh, they're working, you must be working really hard when the business is struggling, and that's when you're not with your family. Actually, as you just said, it can be just the same when the business is going well, because you think you're doing the right thing. You think you're providing.
as you said, you're the breadwinner, and you've absolutely smashed that out of the park.
Yeah. So I had the epiphany that I had, by the way, was that I thought, well, this is great. Success is wonderful. You're under a spotlight. You know, I'd be on the radio most weeks. I was on the front cover of the Financial Times. You know, oh, brilliant. Oh, it's lovely. It's lovely. But I thought to myself, this is a trap. This is a trap. If I'm not careful, this will be me forever. And I thought, well, if this is me, then I'm not a dad. I'm not a parent. I can't be because I can't. I haven't got time to do that bit and do this bit. So I decided. I mean, it helped that you know the business had been successful and we had some money out, but we still owned it. So I actually decided to step out of the business completely from an operational point of view and rebuild my relationship with my son.
And the question I have there, because you speak, your tone is almost disappointed in yourself. It feels. Is that how you see it?
I was disappointed with myself that I didn't see what was happening with my family. Absolutely.
All these years later, have you forgiven yourself?
Yes, the issues still exist in the family, and that's because our son has psychosis. So that's a journey that will carry on for quite some time. But I'm very, and my wife more so, massively involved in his rehabilitation and his life. It's better than it's ever been from a point of view of him as supporting him together as his parents. So no, I'm not disappointed. He needs me now and has needed me now for some time, and that's why I'm happy to say I'm not disappointed. Then if I'd have still been 60 hours a week, I really don't know where we'd be as a family. We probably wouldn't be together as a family. I suspect. Maybe something would have happened.
And going back to that point where you had that epiphany, you say it was an epiphany, was it a specific moment that you remember? What was happening at that point? Where were you? What were you doing? And what did you then do with that epiphany immediately afterwards? Did you go and speak to your wife, or?
It was very clear when it happened. So my fellow shareholders had come out of the business and were effectively retired, and I was effectively running the business on their behalf, keeping them in the lifestyle they've become accustomed to. And they increasingly started to become overly demanding, because they saw me as managing just their investment. They were being very over demanding of my time and what the business was capable of doing and providing them. And I just had that moment. I had sat outside that office in Siemens when I missed my plane, and I said to myself, I'll never work for anyone again. And there I was with people I bought the business with, trying to treat me like I was being treated back then. No, it's not going to happen. So I came out of the business as well. We sold it 3 years later, so it all ended fine for us all, and that's great. We all got what we deserved. But I saw myself think, no, I need to come away from this. And then, of course, these things were happening with Ben as well, and so it just seemed to be the right thing to do at the right time.
And do you remember your wife's reaction when you told her that that's what you were going to do?
Well, this is the great thing what I mentioned to you earlier on about when sometimes you don't mention things because they may not understand, or she perceived that she was my biggest strength during that period of time than any other time in our life together. We've been married 32 years. She was totally supportive. Because I was moving away from a business operationally that I'd created, that I loved, that I knew every member of staff. I knew every member of staff's wife, knew every member of staff's child. It was my baby, the business. And she knew what that meant to move away. So she was very supportive on how we discussed it all. She knew why I was doing it as well, because we're just about spending more time with her and more time with Beth. So I think she was very, very empathetic towards it, and she became a very stabilizing factor actually, because I was at the time I was battling with a number of different emotions. A little bit of felt like I've been stabbed in the back, a little bit being forced to do something, having to take a difficult decision when I don't see why I should. there was a load of conflicting feelings, and she helped put a lot of sense and reflection into that for me, and that really helped me because there was no one else I could have spoken to, because MDs, who do you speak to unless you've got a personal coach or mentor
Yeah.
or things like that. So
With
she was she's very supportive.
Without diversifying, that's one of the big taboos in our world, isn't it?
Yeah.
Coaches and mentors. I think everyone should have at least one mentor, if not two or three.
Yeah, exactly. You
Because
need a different perspective.
I've an extremely supportive wife and family around me, but none of them have run a business before. So that whole brainstorm, what we're going to do, it was all on one son. Sorry, do it, Mum.
No, I mean,
and I suppose
in a way, all of this.
Sorry, Mark, you go ahead.
I was going to say, Stuart, I suppose a lot of this then shaped me for the world that I'm now in. The world I'm now in is helping people, actually. Also very much about me and how I've profiled what I want to do. So with those words ringing in your ears about I'll never be told what to do by anyone else again, I have created a secondary career.
There's a fair bit of charity work in your current list of
and I find
occupations.
I find that I've been very privileged and lucky to have a successful business. I've never been, and my wife's the same, never been, we've never dreamt of yachts and all that sort of thing. We've made a lot of money, but I also help a lot of people voluntarily, and I also, I give back more than anything. And it is more about my character, by the way. Go back to the camaraderie around the changing rooms, going to talk to each and individual player, talking them one to one. This is how I get a lot of satisfaction, is helping other people, giving back, supporting. And I'm really pleased. In some ways, I've been recognised for that actually through a number of sort of civic roles that I've got. But
you have,
yeah,
you are in the Community Foundation, Karen Green, Marketing Nottingham. You're an advisor to Make UK. I didn't know that, so I started looking into your background a little bit more earlier on today.
Ben, have you been stalking again?
Yes,
I've told you about stalking people. You've got to watch that.
I don't have a hobby. We all need a hobby.
It's worth. Oh, go on then. Go.
No, I was just going to continue the list.
Well, I was going to say is, look, when it came out of the company in 2016, we sold it in 2019 to the management team. Yeah. Nice payday. But then it was day one of the rest of your life. So what do you do? So, and I was thinking, what do I do? And people were saying to me, "Oh, you'll have a few months off. You'll decorate the house, or you'll go on holiday, and then you get back into a full-time job." And I was like, no, and I'm not working for anyone. So I built my secondary career from the ground up. Now, for some time, I'd already done some charitable work, so I carried on with that. I was commissioned as a deputy lieutenant in Nottinghamshire, which is the King's representative in the county of Nottinghamshire. And I was awarded that commission by Sir John Peace, the founder of Experian, when he was the Lord Lieutenant, for my work in communities and in business. So that was work that I really enjoyed, and I currently lead on the promotion of the King's Awards for Enterprise in Nottinghamshire, and we're one of the most successful counties in the country for getting winners through that process. And my company was a Queen's Award winner actually back in the day. I didn't mention that, but so I love that. So I was doing lots of these other things, and I've basically built it up. And actually, it's quite difficult to get the balance right, but I think I've just about got it right. Okay. And I've got my civic duties, so I've got the deputy lieutenant. I'm the honorary colonel for the Nottinghamshire Army Cadets. That's a recent appointment, which I'm really, really honoured to have. And then on the charitable side, you're right, I'm vice chair of Forever Knots, which is the Nottinghamshire Community Foundation, which is a charitable intermediary that takes money from philanthropy and fundraising and distributes it to the needy. So I'm really sort of proud about that. I'm the chair of the Roosevelt Scholarship, which is the world's only living memorial for Roosevelt, and it's here in Nottingham. Okay. Yeah, it's phenomenal. So I've been really delighted I'm part of it. The 150th anniversary next July the 4th of the independence of the United States. So we're going to do lots of special things there this year. And then to keep my business mind ticking over, so that's all the kind of the charitable side. To keep the business ticking over, I chair the East Midlands Manufacturing Networks. I sit on Make UK's advisory board, so this is very much back to my manufacturing and business bit. Love that.
Yeah.
Been involved with you on those, Ben. I've got a few select private clients where I mentor and help them. I think I could safe to say I've got the T-shirt when it comes to refinancing a business during a banking crisis.
Completely agree.
Yeah. Buying a
Balls like
business.
beach balls, did we say? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I've got a scar to match every situation, and that's just not the hockey career. So and that I use that, and you know what, I find that amongst other things therapeutic. I've got about half a dozen private clients. You have a real insight to the client you're working with, and it always boils down to the same sort of thing, and that's work-life balance, opportunity. Am I doing it right? And it's, I work with they're all kind of senior, they're either directors or owners, and it keeps this going. A grey matter. I spend a bit of time managing my own investments because I had quite a bit of money from the sale. I self-manage it. So that can be very consuming if you want to make it consuming. And then to kind of bring the whole life back to where it started in a way with my love of sports. I do silly things like run marathons and do Ironman and generally make a complete fool of myself for someone who's almost hitting 60 years of age. But I'm a great advocate for believing that if I can do it, anyone can do it. And once again, I'm probably going back to that kind of attitude of, come on, let's get it done, get it, and can do attitude.
The thing that's funny with that, you've just said, for someone hitting 60 years of age, Mark, you look younger than us two, and you're the best part of 15, 20 years older than us.
It's soft focus.
Cross my mind.
Yeah.
Still got your hair.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's still stuck on today. Yeah.
Not gone grey yet.
No, we've had that. Well, that's another story I could tell you. But anyway, and despite all that, now that sounds like a huge portfolio to manage in a very kind of
where you find the time.
Well, it's not, and I'm not going to be flippant and say it's smoke and mirrors, but I can assure you, in and amongst all of that, we have time for a lot of family time together. So we're away 10, 12 times a year. I mean, I'm not talking about 3 or 4 weeks at a time, but we have a lot of holidays. We're away with the family. All of us are going away in a week or so's time. So the balance for me, that's the key, the balance. The balance of being able to do all these things that stimulate me, giving back a little bit of work, keep the grey matter sharp from a business perspective, but also have that quality time with the family. It's just, but I do realise, and I'm not saying everyone can do that, because I'm in a lucky position that I've got, I'm financially independent, which changes everything.
Yeah.
But it is what's possible. I started just the same as everyone else. I started a business.
You did. There was no silver spoon with yourself, was there? Graft, work ethic, and well done you. Just to, if I may, with you saying your little bit of exercise that you do, I've got a couple of questions here because.
Oh yeah.
This year.
Yeah.
Around the 10 holidays away that you're having, around the honorary curve that you're doing.
I am doing Paris in April. Yeah.
And then on the same day, you're doing the London reverse.
Right. So, this is what it kind of says on the tin, sort of thing. So
going around the other way.
Yeah.
Okay.
So look, London on Sunday the 26th of April. It's ready at midnight. In fact, the night before, the course is all ready in London. So unofficially, there's a reverse marathon. It starts at midnight, and you run the course backwards. That means running it from a route backwards, not running.
Yes, not actually backwards.
That would be totally mad.
It crossed my mind, I presume.
And because I'm raising funds all this year for Footprints, which is a charity, Nottingham charity that help families with children, families and with children and with disabilities, sort of educational, conducive education. They got me a place in London. I've always wanted to do London. It's been one of my absolute go-to, but you can never get in it. You can never get in it. So I'm going to just balls out this year. There are only 3 things I'm doing. I've got 4.
Oh, I can go on.
But I've always fancied doing a double marathon. So I'm going to run it backwards. I'm going to get a massage, get a couple of hours sleep, get some food down me. I'm going to run it forwards. Same day. Yeah.
Just as you do. I've always wanted to run back-to-back marathons. Everybody has.
Well,
we've all got our thing, haven't we?
Yeah. Well,
I've always wanted to meet Paul Lady, but some things aren't meant to be, are they?
I can arrange it, but the thing is, Stuart, talking about that. So I didn't fundraise much last year, because I have a year off every now and again because I find it hard, and I do very very grateful for everyone who gives me money. I do find it's the same or similar people that do it. So when I have a break, I give everyone a break from it, including myself, and then I go back again the next year and do a bit of fundraising. And the same people are going to be there, and I do really appreciate it. But I feel I need to do something more and more to deserve their money. You know,
Okay.
so I do an Ironman.
Mm.
So if I just turn around and said I'm going to do the London Marathon, people would say, "Oh, that's fantastic, Mark. Well done." But you do a marathon on the back end of a triathlon. So what's the big deal? He's assuming that you ain't going to do it. So I need to up the ante, and I thought, well, I'm going to do two then. I'm doing two marathons in one day.
Yeah.
And,
And your Ironman's just in Mexico this year.
well, I don't know
It's
yet.
a short hop across.
Well,
Okay.
So,
That's hopeful.
I like the look of it. So,
Yeah.
and then I thought to myself, you know what? If I'm doing all this running,
Yeah.
I'm going to do an ultra. So an ultra is
Yeah.
anything more than, so I'm doing a 40-mile ultra marathon.
Yeah.
And then I've got a couple of big long swims, and then
Yeah.
and
To have a
the
change
tap,
from running.
and then cycling, and you need to get your shit together for the triathlon. So I'll do a big swimming event,
Yeah.
big cycling event, Tour de France route actually. That'll
Yeah.
be a nightmare. 5,400 meters to climb, and that's like nearly 20,000 feet of climbing. That's over half the height of Everest in climbing.
Mm. Where do you
Yeah.
practice for that? Where do you train for that?
I've got a indoor trainer, but
Oh, have you?
obviously throughout the summer, when I go to Marseille to do the sea swim in June, we're about an hour away from Mount Ventoux, which is one of the iconic climbs. And I normally, when I go out there, do that a couple of 3 times while I'm out there.
It sounds like you've got a busy year planned.
Yeah, so some of these trips are international for a reason. It means that I get to do a little bit of touring. Wife comes with me. It's a bit of fun. We're away from home. So it suits many purposes. I mean, we have lots of normal holidays as well, as in on the beach.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm really really hopeful that I'm going to raise as much as I can for Footprints this year.
So, Mark, where can people find out more about your challenges, if you like, that you're doing this year, and sponsor you? Where can they go to give you some money?
That's really good of you to say, and that'll be really helpful as well, guys. So my Just Giving page is under construction at the moment, because I've just put it out there at the moment to people what I'm doing. I don't want to bombard people early in January, which is when we're recording this, to say this is what I'm doing, give us your money. I just want people to be at the back of their minds that this is what I'm doing. So, but the Just Giving page will be opened up in about 2 or 3 weeks, and I just want it to be live for the year. I'm not expecting to reach a target by the time I do London. Far from it. Where I need to be is where 31st of December, I have a whole year of activities, and I'll probably do a few blogs and things. In fact, you might want me back, towards the end of the year or something. I could.
Absolutely, we want
how
you
it
back,
goes.
because we want to find out. We want to find out what's been happening through this year, and I suppose also how you've balanced all of that with family this year and the change. Because yes, you've said you exited the business a few years ago now, but I'm sure there's been a constant progression for you of family. As you said before, you spent some time kind of rebuilding your relationship with your family on a personal level. And I'm guessing you're constantly building that relationship, as a lot of people try and do in their family. It sounds like you had a strong relationship with your wife early on. You got her very involved, and you made sure that you were really transparent with her, so that she could gain a better understanding of things that you're going through. And that looks like it paid off, I suppose, in terms of you're still together. Lots of couples don't when going through some of those challenges because of possibly poor communication. It seems you spotted that earlier, and you've been able to build from that ever since.
Yeah. I know it sounds like it's all been wonderfully designed, but I think that the crux of it is, I think you said it yourself, I think all relationships need to be worked out, and that's the first day you meet, or in our case after 32 years. They don't just happen naturally. You got to put the effort in. So I do feel that there's an untapped potential of being if you're not fully transparent with your wife on things like this, if you're in a business, it's such an untapped thing. I found so much support and comfort and reflection talking through things with my wife. I never even thought she'd understand, let alone give me guidance on it, and it's been extremely powerful.
Because I don't know about you two, but my father, wonderful in many ways. Whenever you've got a problem, whether emotional, business, whatever, and he's been there and round the block, done it with his own businesses as well. But he just clams up, doesn't open his mouth, sort of shrugs at it, and you'll be all right, boy. Well, I'm not all right. That's kind of why I'm drinking too much and being a bit of a knobhead all round, because I'm not all right. You'll be all right. You get through it.
The other thing is, I don't think you're a knobhead, by the way.
No, not anymore.
Mark, don't worry. I think he's a knobhead sometimes, so it's fine.
The other thing is, I'll move on. The other thing is, our lives are entering a different phase, and what I mean by that is our parents are elderly. So my wife has just her mum left. I have both my parents, but my dad's got dementia. So there always has to be capacity in your thinking and your time and your life to make sure that you're supporting your parents if they're still with you or if they need you. And Lisa's very lucky as well that our parents live relatively nearby, so we're in close contact with them, and that's really important. And that takes up more time than you imagine, actually, and it's not something you should ignore. So once again, I've created some capacity in the way we do things and how we do things to make sure that we're always supporting them. Because they're the next closest thing to your own children. You're their children, right?
Yeah. I think something that hit me, although I read it some time ago, since becoming a parent, it's loud and clear. In Lord Sugar's book, for example, and probably many other didn't see enough of his children doing hobbies, etc.
Yeah.
Because you had that, I don't want to say light bulb moment, but it was clear it's time to change tack, as it were. All important in life, isn't it? Your number one job is a family man. Put before work and money. Your number one job is your son.
Yeah, and you're right. You have to put yourself at the back of the queue when it comes to things like that. But then of course, so my wife's the same. She puts herself at the back of the queue. She thinks of Ben. She thinks of me. She thinks of my mum. So you always have to be at the back, because that's what people who support and are kind and people that want the right things do. That's what you do. You position yourself to make sure that the other people around you that you love are looked after before yourself. You can look after yourself. I'm fine. I'm resilient. I can do my stuff. So that's what you do, and you should do it naturally. And you should do it without kind of worrying about it.
Did you ever have a wobble in that, with you saying, "I'm fine"?
I haven't, but I dare say I would have if I didn't have my activities. I love my activities.
Back when the going got tough, when you were 10-hour days, 12-hour days, and it's all bloody hell, it all might go pear-shaped here.
Yeah, I always had. Bit my nails. Probably.
Yes.
And one time, quite annoyingly, much to my wife's amazement, I sat one night plucking my eyebrows out of habit.
Right.
I was a bit stressed up, and then by the end of the evening, apparently I plucked it all off. Don't look to right, Philip. But that was just one of them. I was just thinking about things, and before I knew it, I'd plucked them out. Just out of habit. No, I didn't have a meltdown. I think there were times when I felt foggy in terms of I couldn't see where I was going.
Yes.
But one thing I always felt about the self is, you are the answer to these things in many ways. It's you have got to find a way through it. So I never panicked. And that also, I think, it's going to be a little bit corny, but I do bring that back to sport. When the chips are down and you have to perform in a fast evolving situation that you've never seen before, you've got to be able to think quickly and do the right thing, whatever that is, whether that's for yourself or a teammate or whatever. And I just feel that my sporting background has helped with some of that and that resilience to it. I don't know. Other than that, I mean, it's difficult. Yeah.
Not knowing when you're beaten.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but just not collapsing under pressure, folding under pressure. That performing under pressure, I guess, is what I'm saying. Being able to think clearly.
Clarity's huge, isn't it? That lift the fog. And that is something which I have found invaluable from peer groups. I'm in 3 sort of peer groups.
Yeah.
Manufacturing Network is one, as you know. And when I was struggling most, I was coming to everybody's session, no matter where it was, and speaking to whoever I wanted to speak to, of which was around the table, and time to time you were one. Having that support network, it is my decision, but the sounding board did not help clear the. So I think if you're listening to this and you're struggling and you think you're on your own, get in touch, join a networking club, your local one, find peers, preferably who've been through what you're going through.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Because I mean, you know how I operate in those peer groups anyway, Ben, don't you? You know, I facilitate it, and so I know where the pressure points are. I know what the challenges are. I've run my own business. I've had all the same problems. It's dead easy to tease it out, and the biggest thing about those groups, which is why I do it in the way I do it, this facilitated discussion way, is that if you did it in a formal sit around, nobody wants to speak first. Absolutely nobody wants to say they've made a shit mistake, or they've had a bad year, or they've made a loss. There's too much pride and stigma at stake. So you just need someone, don't you? You just need someone to say, come on, has this happened? Because if it's happened to me, and I normally start with an example, and then it opens up, and before you know it, it's like, oh, one at a time, please.
Yeah,
and it flows, and then they're talking to each other, and I step back, and it's like, well, this is brilliant.
Yeah, there's a lot of keeping up with the Joneses, so I was scared to say that in case someone judges me for it, and I'm aware I get picked on to open me gob.
But it needs it, and that's why I often come to you, Ben, because you're authentic, and you're authentic, and you'll tell us it is. And once someone's heard someone say something like that, they go, you know what? That's how exactly I feel. I'll just add a comment, and on they go.
And on you go, and you learn a lot. All right, I learn
therapy. I call it therapy.
Yeah, I call it therapy. This is therapy. My wife said to me the other day that this is therapy. Ben. Yeah, that's how I advertised it to you, didn't I?
Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think that's exactly why we started this podcast as well, because partly coming out of that, the manufacturing network, and when I attended as well, you were there, Mark, and Ben had said to me it's therapy. I've thought for a long time, actually, business owners, particularly business owners that have got families relying on them, they need the therapy. I needed the therapy.
I need the therapy.
And I think that was the whole point of this. And I think you hit the nail on the head, Mark, with reminding people that they're not alone, that other people have probably been through it, maybe in a slightly different way, but they've probably got similar experiences, and communication and sharing is cathartic, is a way for you to not feel alone, and that it's only you going through it and nobody else understands your problems, because your mates down the pub might not understand the problems, but other people in networks, people, on this podcast, listening to it, probably do understand your problems. And I think that's why I was really keen, and when you and I first had the conversation, Ben, about putting this podcast together, that's the point of it, to highlight that people aren't alone. So, Mark, a couple of kind of final questions before we wrap up. The first one is, if you could have done anything differently, or you believe you should have done something differently, what would it have been and why?
So, I'm always a firm believer that the course you take, good or bad, good decisions and bad, ends up where you are. If you're happy with where you are, do you need to change it? I think it would be that I should have come out my business when the other shareholders came out, and not taken the role as MD, because I would have possibly avoided a lot of those years of pain and suffering that our son had. And I think it would have been that, because I don't have an ego, so it wouldn't bother me whether I was an MD of a company or not. But that would have been a tough decision to make. But looking back, that would have been a good time for me to have finished as well.
Yeah, and hindsight is a wonderful thing.
Isn't it?
And as you said, I 100% agree. You made the decisions that you made, and they got you to where you are now. And if where you are now is in a better position and you're comfortable with it, then maybe it wasn't a bad decision necessarily, but yeah.
It shapes you, doesn't it? I think.
Ray Dalio, who says pain and reflection is life's university.
Yeah.
Reflecting on the tough times is where you learn your lessons and shape your future. So you
Yeah,
kind of need to go through the mill a bit, really, to
It's funny, I
progress.
probably have as many stories about the good times as I have the bad times, but I never tell the good time ones. I always would tell the bad time stories.
Yeah.
And the reason I tell them is because there's more learning from it. Oh, look, we did really well. And we got all our customers on time. We got all the money in. We made lots of money. We had a dividend, and we did this, and we celebrated. Versus, I had to renegotiate with banking agreements during the middle of a crisis. Now that's a war story for you. It is, so and there's a bit more substance to them, isn't there? And actually, there's learnings to be taken and given from that, which is what I like.
And
I think that's what
we love stories, in particular ones of struggle and strife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We wouldn't watch Del Boy as much if he didn't fall through the bar, would we? We like a
yeah.
So,
and final question for you, Mark. If there was one piece of advice, just one piece of advice that you could give somebody to help them better manage, being a business owner, being a parent, that sort of thing, from your experience, what would it be?
One piece of advice and all of that. Wow.
Yeah.
From a business perspective, straight away, I think you've heard me say it a couple of times already today. I decided I didn't want to work for anyone else, and I've stuck with that. So when you're working with no one else but yourself, you've only got yourself to manage. So I suppose that's a good one to start with. But in managing yourself, don't forget to manage the loved ones around you as well. And I don't mean from a controlling point of view managing. I mean manage the relationships around you. So I feel probably that would be my little mantra if I was going to offer one. If you want to work for yourself, control yourself, and manage the ones that you love around.
I think that's a fantastic sentiment to end on.
Yeah.
Mark, thank you very much for coming on. Good luck with all of your endeavours this year. I think you've certainly got some amazing challenges to look forward to, and some really exciting ones as well. I do think we need to get you back on later in the year, find out how things are going. We will absolutely put a link to you or way that people can get in contact with you in the notes for the show, and links and things. And we'll make sure that when you've got that Just Giving page up, we will add that link in as well, so that people can click on the link and give you some money to support the amazing work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you.
So,
very kind of you.
Thank you very much for coming on, and good luck.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, guys. And Ben, don't forget, I want my shirt back when you finish with it, please.
Yeah, glittering ice hockey career, successful businessman, family man, quarter of a century as a parent, and what a guy. A lot of charity work.
We're not said any of this. I'm really enjoying things right now. I have to say, I've been for some time. So I forgot to even mention that. We've got to mention it in any of this out, the enjoyment factor. And it seems like it's all work, but actually the ultimate goal of all this is enjoying ourselves, isn't it?
You love every minute. And it's been good for us, I think, to have you on, because we're both parents of young kids.
Yeah.
So to see what's potentially in front of us for the next decade or two or whatever. It's been an immense pleasure. And to your career, you are the first guest of our...
Oh, thank you very much. I feel very honoured.
Thank you for your time.
So thank you again, and we'll speak soon.
Cheers. Bye.
Just before we sign off for the episode then, Ben, have you got plans for the weekend?
I mean, first thing I'm going to do from here is go and cuddle a radiator, because my conservatory is fucking freezing and we've been babbling on for nearly 2 hours. But for the weekend, I think everything's back to normal. We've had a week of just steadying the ship, getting back to where we want to be and things. And the weekend's similar. We've got dance class at the Believe Academy, as we have every Saturday when it's not school holidays, on Saturday morning, provided we're not all snowed in. Swimming's back on this week. We had the price list through the other day of how much that's gonna bloody cost me. And
hold on, before you say any more, no more rants on this episode, please. We've already had.
No.
I
am zen like you wouldn't believe at the minute. Really Buddha-like, not just in aesthetics, in the sanctum as well. What was I saying? Dance class and swimming.
You've got dance.
I don't
swimming.
think I've got plans on Sunday. I think there's an element, it would be nice for us to have a slow, easy day, because kids are all back to nursery this week, so we're going to be bloody knackered. And we're not used to routine school, nursery, and dance class, swimming just yet. So I think, we might go and see a family member, have a lie-in, do a bit, come home early, that sort of thing on Sunday. So all ready for it
Sounds
to
good.
start again as normality is back upon us, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Sounds like you've got a nice chilled weekend.
I think so. Unless anybody spoils it, which may occur.
I'm sure somebody will spoil it for you, and then you can rant about it next week.
Yeah, probably you bugger.
No, I'm off doing things this weekend. So I've got my daughter this weekend.
Yes. Where are you going?
She's with me, but also also my partner's down this weekend because she's joining me next week for a trade show in London.
Oh, you said that's
that I've
the
spoken about on
expensive
previous
train ticket one.
episodes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one with the really expensive train ticket that
actually turned out not to be too bad.
So we've got I don't know what we've got planned this weekend. We'll see family because when my partner comes down, we always have to go and see mum and dad, that sort of stuff.
Of course.
They like catching up with her as well. And then I don't know what the plans are with the daughter, so we will just take it as it comes.
Often the best things happen when there's not a plan, don't they?
Yeah, I think so. Well, the best things happen in parenting, they don't happen in business when there's not a plan.
That's true. I'll well said.
Yeah. And now I've said something really well, which is unusual for me. I think it's time we should wrap up. So don't forget to follow us on Spotify or wherever you listen. Do also feel free to get in touch with your stories or your top tips, or as I said earlier, your rants, just because Ben will enjoy those a lot more and it doesn't make him look so bad.
Nice to know I'm not the only one, isn't
Just
it?
about how you balance your parenting business. You can either leave us a comment or drop us an email at podcast@parentingbusiness.com. Also, if you like what you hear, please share the podcast with other parents and business owners. Leave us a 5-star review. It really does help. And on that note, Ben, I'll say goodbye.
Yes, and hope you all have a wonderful 2026. And may the fleas of 1,000 camels infect the anus of everybody who stands against you.
And we will see you next Thursday.
Adios, amigos.